The warning lights flashed red across the Galactic Council monitoring station as Commander Zeftar stared at his display screen in complete shock. His 6 arms moved quickly across the control panels while his large purple eyes tried to make sense of what he was seeing. The energy readings coming from the edge of the Kepler 442 system were unlike anything in their vast databases. These signatures were raw and powerful in ways that made his scales shiver with fear. Captain Jake Morrison stood tall on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching the stars ahead through the main viewing screen. His brown hair was cut short in military style, and his blue eyes held the hard look of someone who had seen too much death. 3 years had passed since the Zephyrian attack on humanity's outer colonies. 3 years since he watched orbital bombardments turn peaceful farming, settlements into burning craters. 3 years since Earth learned that the galaxy was not the peaceful place their scientists had hoped to find. The bridge crew worked quietly around him. Each person wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's stellar navy, with patches showing their battle honors from the colonial wars. These were not explorers or diplomats. These were soldiers who had volunteered for humanity's first mission beyond their home system. They carried with them the anger of a species that had reached for the stars only to have alien hands slap them down. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Phillips sat at the communication station monitoring alien transmissions. His equipment had been built using technology taken from crashed Zephyrian ships. Every system on the Vengeance was a mixture of human engineering and reverse-engineered alien tech. Earth's scientists had learned fast how to take enemy weapons and make them better. Phillips looked up at Morrison with a grim smile. "Captain, we are getting contact attempts from the local monitoring station. They are sending standard peaceful greeting protocols." Morrison walked over to Phillips' station and read the translated message on the screen. The aliens were welcoming them to the system and asking about their intentions. They spoke of trade opportunities and peaceful cooperation. They mentioned something called the Galactic Council and invited humanity to join their alliance of civilized species. Morrison's jaw tightened as he read the words. How many other species had received similar messages before being bombed into submission or slavery? Dr. Elena Rodriguez looked up from her science station where she had been studying the alien signals. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her brown eyes showed the intelligence that had made her Earth's chief expert on alien technology. "Captain, their transmission methods are definitely more advanced than ours, but not by much. I am reading defensive platforms around their station, but they are not designed for real combat. These weapons look like they are meant to stop pirates or small raiders, not military vessels." Colonel Nathan Brooks stepped forward from his position at the tactical station. His broad shoulders and scarred hands told the story of someone who had fought in ground battles during the colonial wars. "Sir, I have been analyzing their defensive grid. Their weapons are spread out to cover maximum area, but they have weak points. If we needed to take out their platforms, we could do it in under 10 minutes, Morrison nodded slowly. The alien message was still playing on repeat, asking for peaceful contact and offering to guide humanity into their galactic community. He had heard similar words before from Zephyrian diplomats right before they attacked Earth's colonies. A memory of burning cities and screaming civilians filled his mind. Never again would humanity trust alien promises of peace. "Phillips, open a channel to their station," Morrison ordered. His voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded ships in real battles. "Let them know we received their message." The main screen flickered and showed the interior of the alien monitoring station. Commander Zeftar appeared on screen with his purple-scaled skin and multiple arms. Behind him, other aliens of different species worked at various stations. Their technology looked clean and peaceful with soft lighting and curved surfaces. It was the kind of design made by people who had never needed to build anything for war. "Greetings. Unknown vessel," Zeftar said in accented but clear English. "I am Commander Zeftar of the Velnari species representing the Galactic Council. We welcome you to this system and hope to establish peaceful relations with your people. Your technology suggests you are a recently spacefaring species. We offer guidance and assistance in joining our community of civilized worlds." Morrison stepped in front of the camera, with his hands clasped behind his back in military attention. His face showed no emotion as he looked directly at the alien commander. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Stellar Navy vessel Vengeance. We appreciate your welcome, but we did not come here seeking permission or guidance. Humanity has already learned about galactic civilization from previous encounters." The alien commander's large eyes blinked in confusion. "Previous encounters? We have no record of contact with your species. Perhaps there has been some misunderstanding. The Galactic Council maintains detailed records of all spacefaring civilizations, and your people are not listed in our databases." The Zephyrians made first contact with humanity 3 years ago, Morrison replied coldly. "They also spoke of peaceful cooperation right before they killed 3 million human civilians. We learned our lesson about trusting alien promises." Zeftar's scales changed color to a lighter purple, which Phillips recognized as a sign of distress in Velnari body language. "Captain Morrison, the Zephyrians are not members of the Galactic Council. They are known raiders and pirates who prey on peaceful species. We have been fighting them for decades. If they attacked your people, then you have our sympathy and our offer of alliance against them." Morrison's expression did not change. "Your sympathy is noted but not needed. We handled the Zephyrian problem ourselves. What we want now is simple. Humanity will establish colonies and mining operations in this region of space. We are informing you of this as a courtesy, not asking for permission." The alien commander leaned forward with obvious concern. "Captain, this system falls under Galactic Council protection. While we welcome new species, there are protocols that must be followed. We can help you find suitable worlds for colonization through proper channels. There is no need for conflict or misunderstanding." Brooks moved quietly to his weapon controls as he watched the tactical display. The alien defensive platforms were powering up their weapons, but slowly, as if the crews were confused about what to do. These aliens had clearly never faced a situation like this before. Their weapons were coming online, but they were not targeting the Vengeance yet. "Colonel Brooks, what is the status of their defensive grid?" Morrison asked, without taking his eyes off the alien commander. "Sir, their platforms are activating weapons, but they are not locking onto us. It looks like they are confused about our intentions. Should I bring our weapons online?" Morrison turned back to the screen where Zeftar was clearly listening to reports from his crew. The alien commander's face showed growing alarm as he realized the human ship was much more heavily armed than anything in their experience. The energy readings from the Vengeance were off their charts. "Commander Zeftar," Morrison said calmly, "I want you to understand something important. Humanity did not come to the stars looking for friends or trade partners. We came looking for enemies who might threaten our people. The Zephyrians taught us that the galaxy is full of predators who see newer species as prey. We decided to become the predators instead. The alien commander's voice showed clear panic now. "Captain Morrison, please reconsider. The Galactic Council has maintained peace for over 3,000 years. We can resolve any disputes through negotiation and compromise. Violence is not necessary. Violence is always necessary when dealing with threats," Morrison replied. "The question is whether you choose to be a threat to humanity or not. We will establish our presence in this region. You can accept that peacefully, or we can demonstrate why the Zephyrians no longer attack human colonies." Alarms began sounding on the alien station as their sensors detected the Vengeance powering up its weapon systems. Every gun, missile launcher, and energy cannon on the human ship came online simultaneously. The power readings made the alien equipment scream warnings about imminent attack. Zeftar looked at his displays in terror. His peaceful monitoring station was designed to watch for pirates with small ships and weak weapons. The human vessel carried enough firepower to destroy his entire facility and everyone on it. Worse, the human seemed perfectly willing to use that firepower without any hesitation. "Captain Morrison, we mean you no harm," Zeftar said desperately. "Please, power. Down your weapons. We can discuss this peacefully." Morrison's smile was cold and sharp like a blade. "Commander, our weapons stay online until we are satisfied that you understand the new reality. Humanity is here to stay, and we do not need anyone's permission. The age of galactic peace just ended." The first shots came not from the human ship, but from a panicked gunner on one of the alien platforms who fired too soon. The energy beam struck the Vengeance's shields and dispersed harmlessly. Morrison looked at Brooks and nodded once. The response was swift and devastating. The news traveled faster than light through the quantum communication networks that connected every civilized world in the galaxy. In council chambers and government buildings across thousands of star systems, alien leaders watched the recorded footage from the Kepler 442 monitoring station with growing horror. The images showed the human warship destroying defensive platforms with casual efficiency, treating the peaceful facility like a target in a training exercise. Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat in her laboratory aboard the UES Vengeance, studying intercepted alien communications. Her translation software worked overtime, processing messages in dozens of different languages as species across the galaxy tried to understand what they had just witnessed. The conversations all followed the same pattern. First came disbelief that any species would attack without provocation. Then came fear, as military analysts realized the implications of humanity's actions. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface, reading reports from intelligence agents scattered across human space. The woman, who had risen through the ranks during the colonial wars, now commanded Earth's entire military force. Her gray hair and lined face showed the stress of 3 years spent preparing for the next alien attack. The news from the Outer Rim was exactly what she had hoped to hear. "Admiral, we are intercepting communications from at least 40 different species discussing the Kepler incident," reported Captain Susan Lee from her position at the intelligence station. "The translations are rough, but they all seem to be asking the same questions. Who are these humans and why did they attack without warning?" Carter nodded as she studied the tactical displays showing human fleet positions throughout their territory. Each red dot represented a warship armed with weapons that had been tested against alien technology and found superior. "What about military responses? Are any of them mobilizing fleets against us?" 3 species have issued formal condemnations through the Galactic Council," Lee replied. "The Altarian Federation is demanding an immediate investigation. The hegemony wants the humans. brought before their war crimes tribunal. The Drakmori are calling for honored combat between our champions. The Admiral smiled grimly at that last part. The Drakmori were one of the few species in the galaxy that still maintained a warrior culture. Unlike the others who had evolved, beyond the need for violence, they might actually understand humanity's position. Any sign of actual military movement? The Altarians are dispatching 3 cruisers to investigate. Their fleet commander is Admiral Korethnel, one of their most experienced officers. Intelligence suggests he has dealt with dozens of primitive species and considers himself an expert at handling newcomers. Carter walked over to the main display showing the positions of known alien fleets. The Altarian ships were moving toward human space with the slow confidence of a species that had never faced serious opposition. Their military doctrine was based on overwhelming technological superiority and the assumption that all conflicts could be resolved through demonstration of power. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Phillips worked at his station aboard the Vengeance monitoring the approaching Altarian fleet. His equipment showed 3 ships moving in perfect formation with their weapons powered down and shields at minimum. They were not approaching as enemies, but as teachers coming to discipline unruly children. Captain, Morrison studied the tactical data as Colonel Brooks prepared defensive positions. The human ship had moved deeper into the system and was now orbiting a large asteroid field that provided cover from long-range sensors. Their weapons were fully charged and ready, but they remained hidden behind the space rocks. "Sir," the Altarian, "ships are broadcasting on standard diplomatic frequencies," Phillips reported. "They are demanding that we surrender our vessel for inspection and return to our home system under escort. Admiral Korethnel wants to speak with our commanding officer about proper galactic protocol." Morrison looked at the tactical display, showing the 3 alien cruisers. Each ship was larger than the Vengeance and carried more advanced weapons. In a straight fight, the humans would be outgunned and outnumbered. Fortunately, Morrison had no intention of fighting fair. "Brooks, what is your assessment of their approach pattern?" Morrison asked. The colonel studied his screens before answering. "Sir, they are coming in tight formation with their flagship in the lead. Standard Altarian doctrine for dealing with inferior species. They expect us to be intimidated by their show of force and surrender without a fight." Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her analysis of alien psychology reports. "Captain, I have been studying Altarian culture and military history. They have never lost a ship in combat against a primitive species. Their entire approach is based on the assumption that superior technology guarantees victory." Morrison nodded as he watched the enemy ships approach. The Altarians had made the same mistake as countless other species throughout galactic history. They assumed that technological advancement meant military superiority. They had never faced an enemy that understood how to turn technology into effective weapons. Admiral Korethnel stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive human vessel hiding among the asteroids. His tall, blue-skinned form radiated the confidence of someone who had handled hundreds of similar situations. The human ship was small and crude compared to Altarian technology. This would be a simple matter of demonstrating superiority and bringing the newcomers into line. "Communications. Open a channel to the human vessel," Korethnel ordered. "Let them see the power they are facing." The transmission reached the Vengeance as Morrison stood before the main screen. The Altarian Admiral appeared with his blue skin and silver uniform decorated with medals from peaceful integrations of primitive species. Behind him, his bridge crew worked calmly at stations that looked more like art installations than military equipment. "I am Admiral Korethnel of the Altarian Federation," the alien said in perfect English. "You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your species has violated galactic law by attacking a peaceful monitoring station. You will return to your home system under escort to face judgment for your crimes." Morrison looked directly at the alien admiral with the same cold expression he had shown the Velnari. "Admiral Korathnel, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Stellar Navy. We do not recognize galactic law or the authority of your Federation. If you attempt to board this vessel, we will defend ourselves." The Altarian admiral's expression showed surprise and annoyance. "Captain Morrison, you do not understand the situation. Your ship cannot match our technology. Surrender now, and your crew will be treated according to civilized standards. Continue this foolish resistance, and we will be forced to disable your vessel." "Brooks, are you ready?" Morrison asked, without taking his eyes off the screen. "Yes, sir." "All weapons locked on target." Morrison turned back to the alien admiral. "Korathnel, let me explain something about human military doctrine. We do not surrender to superior numbers or technology. We find ways to win anyway." The transmission cut off as Morrison gave the order to fire. The Vengeance emerged from behind the asteroid, launching every missile in its arsenal at once. The kinetic bombardment rounds had been designed specifically to penetrate alien shield technology. They struck the Altarian flagship before its crew could react. Admiral Korathnel died in the first seconds of the attack as his bridge exploded around him. His final thought was confusion about how a primitive species could have weapons that cut through advanced Altarian shields like they were made of paper. The flagship broke apart in a series of explosions that lit up space for millions of kilometers. The other two Altarian ships tried to retreat, but Morrison had positioned his vessel to block their escape route. Brooks targeted their engines with precision fire that left them drifting helplessly in space. The alien crews abandoned ship rather than face capture by the savage humans who had just destroyed their admiral. Colonel Nathan Brooks watched the debris field that had been 3 advanced alien warships. His tactical training told him that this victory would have consequences far beyond the immediate battle. Word would spread that humanity had destroyed an Altarian fleet without losing a single ship. The galaxy's perception of human military capability had just changed dramatically. On Earth, President Maria Gonzalez addressed the United Nations Security Council as reports of the battle reached home. The former general who had led ground forces during the colonial wars now held the highest civilian office in human government. Her speech was broadcast across every human colony and military base. "Fellow citizens of Earth and her colonies," she began. "Today, our forces in the Outer Rim have shown the galaxy that humanity will not be intimidated or controlled by alien powers. The Altarian Federation sent 3 warships to force our surrender. Those ships no longer exist." The chamber erupted in cheers from representatives who remembered the terror of the Zephyrian attacks. For 3 years, humanity had lived in fear of the next alien assault. Now they were learning that their military could not only defend human space, but could strike back against any threat. Lieutenant Amy Foster monitored communications from her station in Earth's Intelligence Center. The assembly of the largest military fleet in galactic history began at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Ships from 12 different species converged on the rally point, bringing with them the combined technological might of 3,000 years of peaceful cooperation. War Prime Korathnel stood in the command center of the massive hegemony dreadnought that served as the fleet flagship. His crystalline skin reflected the lights from thousands of tactical displays showing the positions of over 600 alien warships. The fleet represented everything the galaxy's peaceful civilizations had learned about space warfare from their ancient past. Velnari ships with their graceful curves and energy weapons designed for precise strikes against specific targets. Altarian vessels rebuilt with heavier armor after learning from their recent losses to human tactics. Drakmori battleships that looked like flying fortresses carrying crews who still remembered the old ways of honorable combat. Commander Steve Parker floated in the cold vacuum of space wearing a stealth suit that rendered him invisible to alien sensors. His reconnaissance team had been watching the alien assembly for 3 days, taking detailed scans of every ship and weapon system. The intelligence they gathered painted a terrifying picture of what humanity would face in the coming battle. Parker activated his encrypted communicator to contact the UES Vengeance hidden in the asteroid belt 2 systems away. Captain Morrison, this is Recon Team Alpha. The alien fleet numbers 612 vessels, including 8 Dreadnought-class ships. Their combined firepower is approximately 50 times greater than our entire fleet. Captain Morrison received the report while standing on the bridge with his senior officers. The tactical display showed red dots representing enemy positions scattered across several light years of space. Each dot represented firepower that could destroy human colonies or reduce Earth itself to a burning cinder. The odds were worse than anything humanity had faced during the colonial wars. Brooks, what is your assessment of our chances in a direct engagement? Morrison asked his tactical officer. Colonel Nathan Brooks studied the intelligence data before answering. Sir, in a conventional battle, we would be destroyed in the first 10 minutes. Their technology is superior, and they have overwhelming numerical advantage. However, their formations suggest they are planning to fight by traditional galactic standards. Doctor. Elena Rodriguez looked up from her analysis station where she had been studying alien military doctrine. Captain, I have been reviewing their historical battles and training exercises. These species have spent centuries learning to fight against each other using agreed-upon rules of engagement. They expect battles to follow specific patterns with proper warnings and time for surrender negotiations. Morrison nodded as he considered the implications. The alien fleet was organized according to peaceful species that had forgotten what real war looked like. They would approach the coming battle like a sporting match with rules and expectations about proper behavior. Humanity would approach it like a fight for survival. Engineering. Chief Lisa Wong worked frantically in the lower decks of the Vengeance, coordinating with technical teams across the human fleet. Her screens showed the status of weapons platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belts and dead systems surrounding human space. 3 years of preparation had turned every piece of space rock and abandoned facility into a potential weapon. Chief. Wong, what is the status of the hidden defense grid? Morrison asked over the communication system. Sir, all platforms are online and ready. We have kinetic bombardment systems hidden in 47 different locations, stealth mines deployed, along all major approach routes and emergency weapon caches positioned for rapid deployment. The enemy will be fighting in a kill zone without knowing it. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the war room coordinating the deployment of humanity's most secret weapon. The UES Retribution had been under construction for 2 years, in a hidden shipyard beyond Pluto. The massive dreadnought carried experimental quantum torpedoes that had been designed using captured alien technology and human desperation. Admiral, the Retribution is ready for deployment, reported Captain Kevin Davis from the secret shipyard. All weapon systems are online and the quantum torpedoes are armed. We can reach the battle zone in 18 hours using the new hyperspace drive. Carter studied the tactical projections showing possible battle scenarios. None of them looked good for humanity, but that had never stopped them before. The species that had fought its way from cave paintings to starships in just 50,000 years was not going to surrender to alien bullies no matter how advanced their technology. War Prime Corthnell received intelligence reports about human fleet movements from scout ships positioned throughout the border region. The information was confusing because human ships seemed to be scattered randomly across dozens of systems instead of concentrating for defense. Either the humans were too primitive to understand basic military strategy, or they were planning something that made no sense according to galactic standards. Fleet Commander Veltar, what is your analysis of human deployments? Corthnell asked his chief tactical officer. The Velnari officer studied the displays with growing confusion. War Prime, their ships appear to be dispersed in small groups, with no central command structure. It is possible they are attempting to flee rather than fight. This deployment makes no strategic sense for defensive operations. Corthnell nodded as he considered the implications. Perhaps the humans had finally realized the futility of opposing the combined might of galactic civilization. Their recent victories against single ships or small fleets had given them false confidence, but now they faced real military power. The coming battle would be swift and decisive. The alien coalition began its advance toward human space with the slow confidence of a species that had never lost a major engagement. Their fleet moved in perfect formation with proper spacing and communication protocols. Scout ships moved ahead to gather intelligence while support vessels maintained supply lines stretching back to their home systems. Captain Morrison watched the enemy approach on long-range sensors while his ship remained hidden among the metal-rich asteroids that interfered with alien detection systems. The Vengeance had been modified extensively since leaving Earth with new weapons and armor designed specifically for fighting technologically superior enemies. Phillips, any response to their surrender demands? Morrison asked. Lieutenant Commander. Ryan Phillips monitored alien communications from his station. Sir, they are broadcasting on all frequencies demanding immediate surrender of all human military forces. They are offering to spare civilian populations if we comply with their terms for total disarmament. Morrison laughed coldly at the offer. The same terms they probably offered the Zephyrians before they were wiped out. Send them our response. The message that went out to the alien fleet was brief and direct. Captain Morrison appeared on screen, in his battle uniform with the wreckage of alien ships visible through the viewport behind him. To the Galactic Council Fleet, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Stellar Navy. Humanity does not surrender to alien threats. If you want to disarm us? Come and try. The transmission cut off as Morrison gave orders for final battle preparations. Every human ship in the fleet received the same message. No retreat, no surrender, no mercy for enemies who threatened human civilians. The aliens wanted to see how a species of death-world predators fought when cornered. War Prime Corthnell watched. The human response with a mixture of admiration and regret. The primitive species had courage even if they lacked wisdom. Their destruction would be swift, but he would make sure it was also honorable. The galaxy would remember that these humans had faced impossible odds without backing down. All ships, advance to battle positions, Corthnell ordered. Maintain formation integrity and prepare for engagement. Target human military vessels only. We are here to end a threat, not commit genocide. The massive alien fleet accelerated toward the outer edge of human space, where their sensors detected the largest concentration of enemy ships. Intelligence suggested the humans were making their final stand near a binary star system with multiple asteroid fields that would provide cover for smaller vessels. Commander Jennifer Torres monitored enemy communications from her position aboard a stealth reconnaissance ship. Her job was psychological warfare and intelligence gathering, but what she heard in the alien transmissions concerned her. The enemy commanders were discussing rules of engagement and proper treatment of prisoners. They were approaching this battle like a police action rather than a war. "Captain Morrison, this is Commander Torres," she transmitted to the Vengeance. "The enemy fleet is maintaining standard formation and following traditional engagement protocols. They are not expecting the kind of warfare we are planning to use against them." Morrison received the report while studying tactical displays showing enemy positions. The alien fleet was moving exactly as human military analysts had predicted, based on their historical battles. They would approach in formation, demand surrender, then engage with measured force designed to disable rather than destroy. It was the kind of civilized warfare practiced by species that had forgotten what real combat looked like. The UES Retribution emerged from hyperspace like a monster rising from the depths of space. Captain Kevin Davis stood on the bridge of the massive dreadnought watching the alien fleet spread out before him in perfect formation. Their ships were arranged according to centuries of tactical doctrine, with heavy vessels in the center and support craft positioned for optimal fire coverage. It was exactly the kind of organized deployment that made them vulnerable to what humanity was about to unleash. The quantum torpedoes launched from the Retribution before the alien sensors could even detect the human ship's arrival. 12 weapons that contained the destructive power of collapsed stars streaked through space toward the largest enemy vessels. Each torpedo had been designed using mathematics that pushed human understanding of physics to its absolute limits. The scientists who built them had used alien technology as a foundation and human desperation as motivation. War Prime Corthnell felt his flagship shudder as the first quantum torpedo detonated against its shields. The energy release was unlike anything in his species' experience. His tactical displays showed impossible readings as space itself seemed to twist and burn. Around the point of impact, the shields that had protected hegemony ships for millennia collapsed under forces that violated known laws of physics. "Damage report," Corthnell ordered, as his bridge crew struggled to understand what had just happened. "War Prime, our primary. Shields are gone, and hull integrity is down to 60%, his engineering officer reported. "The weapon that hit us released energy equivalent to a stellar collapse. Our armor should not have survived the impact." Corthnell studied the tactical display showing 8 of his largest ships either destroyed or critically damaged by the human attack. In 30 seconds, the aliens had lost more firepower than in the previous 3,000 years of their peaceful expansion. The humans had not simply violated the rules of civilized warfare. They had torn up the rulebook and created an entirely new form of combat. Captain Morrison watched the alien fleet's formation collapse as the Retribution's attack tore through their heavy ships. The enemy commanders were trying to reorganize their forces, but their doctrine had no provisions for dealing with weapons that could destroy dreadnoughts in single hits. Their response was slow and confused as species that had forgotten real war tried to remember how to fight for survival. "Brooks, launch all fighters immediately," Morrison ordered. "Target their command ships and support vessels. Do not give them time to adapt to our tactics." Lieutenant Colonel Danny Smith led the human fighter squadrons in their attack run against the alien fleet. His pilots flew ships that had been designed specifically for one purpose: to get close enough to enemy vessels to deliver maximum destruction regardless of the cost. Each fighter carried enough explosives to cripple a cruiser, and every pilot had volunteered for a mission they knew might be their last. The alien point defense systems had been designed to stop missiles and small raiders, not suicide attacks by pilots who considered their own survival secondary to mission completion. Smith's squadron tore through the defensive fire like it was not even there. His fighters closed to point-blank range before releasing their payloads directly into enemy hull sections. Admiral Kareth Vel of the Altarian survivors watched in horror as human fighters rammed his ships after expending their weapons. The pilots were deliberately crashing their vessels into critical systems rather than attempting to escape. His crew was screaming about Death World predators who fought like they were already dead. "All ships, retreat to safe distance," Kareth Vel ordered. "These humans are using kamikaze tactics. Our defensive systems were not designed for enemies who do not value their own survival." Smith's fighter impacted the Altarian command ship's bridge section at full speed. His final transmission to the human fleet was simple and direct. "Bridge destroyed. Enemy command eliminated. Tell my wife I did my job." The explosion took out the ship's primary control systems and left it drifting helplessly in space. Commander. Jennifer Torres monitored alien communications from her stealth ship and transmitted psychological warfare analysis to the human fleet. "All ships, this is Torres. Enemy morale is collapsing. Their pilots are abandoning positions rather than face our fighters. They are calling us Death World predators and savage mammals who fight without honor." The human fleet pressed their attack as alien formations dissolved into chaos. Captain Morrison coordinated the assault while the Retribution continued to target the largest enemy ships with quantum torpedoes. Each human vessel fought independently using tactics that had been developed during the colonial wars when outnumbered. Defenders had learned to maximize damage while minimizing their own exposure. Engineering Chief Lisa Wong monitored the battle from her position aboard the Vengeance while coordinating with weapon platforms throughout the asteroid field. Her screens showed alien ships trying to retreat only to run into additional minefields and hidden gun positions. The enemy had walked into a carefully prepared killing ground, and now they were discovering that every piece of space rock around them contained weapons. "Captain Morrison, this is Wong," she reported. "The asteroid defense grid is operating at maximum efficiency. Enemy ships are taking damage from multiple directions, and their formation integrity is completely broken." War Prime Korthnell made the decision that no galactic commander had been forced to make in over 3 millennia. His fleet was being destroyed by an enemy that refused to follow any recognized form of combat. The humans were using their own ships as weapons, targeting medical vessels, and treating any alien in uniform as a legitimate target regardless of their actual combat role. "Fleet Commander Veltar, signal general retreat," Korthnell ordered. "All ships are to withdraw to the rally point immediately. We cannot continue operations against an enemy that fights without regard for civilized standards." The Velnari commander hesitated before following the order. "War Prime, retreat will be seen as defeat by a primitive species. The Council will demand explanations for our failure." "The Council can demand whatever they wish," Korthnell replied grimly. "I will not sacrifice more ships and crews to enemies who treat war like a natural disaster rather than a political tool. These humans fight like cornered animals, and there is no honor in fighting beasts." Captain Davis, aboard the Retribution, watched the alien fleet attempt to disengage while his quantum torpedoes continued to find targets among their heavy ships. The enemy retreat was not organized withdrawal, but panicked flight as crews abandoned their positions rather than face weapons that made their technology obsolete. Captain Morrison, this is Davis, he transmitted to the Vengeance. Enemy fleet is in full retreat. Should we pursue and complete their destruction? Morrison considered the tactical situation while watching alien ships flee toward the edge of the system. The human fleet had achieved total victory, but pursuing would expose them to potential counterattacks from fresh enemy forces. More importantly, allowing survivors to escape would spread word of humanity's combat capabilities throughout the galaxy. Negative, Davis, let them go, Morrison ordered. We want survivors to tell the story of what happened here. The galaxy needs to understand what happens when they threaten human space. Dr. Elena Rodriguez studied the wreckage of the alien fleet while her sensors analyzed the debris for technical intelligence. The battle had lasted less than 2 hours, but the results would reshape galactic politics for generations. Humanity had not simply defeated a superior enemy force. They had demonstrated that peaceful species were fundamentally vulnerable to predators who retained their killer instincts. Captain, preliminary analysis suggests we destroyed or disabled over 400 enemy vessels, Rodriguez reported. Their casualty rate exceeds 90%. This is the most one-sided space battle in recorded galactic history. Colonel Brooks coordinated search and rescue operations while monitoring for potential alien reinforcements. Human ships moved through the debris field, capturing survivors and gathering intelligence about enemy capabilities. The alien crews that were rescued showed signs of psychological trauma that went beyond normal combat stress. Sir, the alien prisoners are exhibiting severe emotional distress, Brooks reported. Their medical officers are requesting treatment for conditions they describe as exposure to unnatural combat behavior. They seem genuinely unable to process our combat methods. Morrison nodded as he read reports about alien reactions to human tactics. The galaxy's peaceful species had evolved beyond the psychological ability to comprehend total warfare. They could understand limited conflict with specific objectives, but not the kind of existential struggle that humans considered normal military operations. Commander Torres interviewed captured alien officers to gather intelligence about galactic military capabilities and political structures. Her psychological training helped her understand that these species had literally forgotten how to fight against enemies who were trying to kill them rather than defeat them politically. Captain, the alien officers are describing our tactics as violations of natural law, Torres reported. They cannot understand why we target medical ships or use kamikaze attacks. To them, war is supposed to be a form of negotiation with specific rules and limitations. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chambers that had not seen such tension in 3,000 years. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered in the massive assembly hall on Sanctuary, while outside, refugee ships carried the survivors of the greatest military disaster in galactic history. War Prime Korthnell stood before the assembly with his crystalline skin dulled by exhaustion and defeat as he delivered his report on humanity's combat capabilities. Fellow representatives, we must face the reality that our assumptions about warfare and civilization have been proven false, Korthnell said. The humans do not fight according to any doctrine we understand. They treat every engagement as a struggle for species survival, and they possess weapons that make our defensive technology obsolete. The chamber filled with the sounds of hundreds of different species expressing shock and fear. Ambassador Velmiran of the peaceful Altarian Federation demanded immediate action against the human threat. Representative Korthadan of the ancient hegemony called for negotiation before more ships were lost. The Drakmori delegation remained silent, but their body language suggested approval of humanity's warrior culture. Captain Jake Morrison received reports of the Council debate while standing on the observation deck of the newly constructed Terran defense platform orbiting the former Velnari monitoring station. The massive structure bristled with weapons that had been designed using technology captured from a dozen different alien species. Human engineers had taken the best ideas from galactic civilization and made them more deadly. Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked in her expanded laboratory studying diplomatic communications, intercepted from across the galaxy. Her translation systems processed thousands of messages as species that had never needed to consider military defense suddenly found themselves evaluating their vulnerability to human attack. The conversations all followed similar patterns of fear and confusion. "Captain, I am detecting significant political instability throughout the Council territories," Rodriguez reported. "Multiple species are questioning their military preparedness, and some are beginning to withdraw from mutual defense agreements. The unity that held the galaxy together for millennia is starting to crack." Admiral Lisa Carter read intelligence, reports in her command center deep beneath Earth's surface, while coordinating humanity's expansion into previously alien-controlled space. The woman who had spent 3 years preparing for the next alien invasion now planned the systematic establishment of human dominance throughout the Outer Rim territories. "Admiral, we are receiving formal diplomatic contact from individual alien species," reported Captain Susan Lee from her intelligence station. "The Drak Mori are offering military alliance and requesting combat training exchanges. The hegemony wants to negotiate territorial boundaries. Even the Altarians are asking about trade agreements." Carter studied the communications with satisfaction. The galaxy's peaceful species were learning to treat humanity as equals rather than primitives to be controlled. Fear was an excellent teacher for species that had forgotten the lessons their ancestors learned about respecting predators. President Maria Gonzalez stood in the Oval Office reading the first formal diplomatic proposals from alien governments. The former general who had led humanity through the colonial wars now faced the challenge of managing relationships with species that had recently tried to destroy human civilization. Her response would set the tone for humanity's place in galactic politics. "Madam President, the Drak Mori ambassador is requesting a formal audience," her Secretary of State reported. "They want to discuss what they call honored alliance between warrior species. The hegemony is offering recognition of human territorial claims in exchange for non-aggression guarantees." Gonzalez nodded as she considered the implications. 3 months ago, these same species had sent fleets to destroy humanity. Now they were offering treaties and trade agreements. The transformation from threat to diplomatic partner had happened faster than anyone had expected. Commander Jennifer Torres established the first human embassy in the Council territories on the neutral world of Sanctuary. Her mission was to represent humanity's interests while gathering intelligence about galactic political structures. The embassy building had been designed to send a clear message about human priorities with angular architecture and defensive systems that were clearly visible to alien visitors. "Captain Morrison, this is Torres," she transmitted to the Terran defense platform. "I am receiving requests for meetings from over 40 different species representatives. They all want to discuss the same thing: how to avoid military conflict with human forces." Torres walked through the embassy corridors that displayed images of human military victories and technological achievements. The alien visitors who came seeking audience with human representatives were always escorted past exhibits showing the results of attempting to threaten humanity. The message was subtle but clear. Cooperation was preferable to conflict. The Drak Mori. Ambassador Korth Malak arrived at the human embassy wearing the ceremonial armor of his warrior caste. His species was one of the few in the galaxy that still maintained military traditions and understood the concept of strength through violence. His proposal for alliance was based on mutual respect between species that had not forgotten how to fight. Ambassador Torres: "My people offer formal alliance with the human species," Korth Malak said. "We recognize your warriors as worthy opponents and potential allies. The Drakmori have always respected strength, and your recent victories prove that humans understand the true nature of galactic politics." Torres studied the alien warrior while considering humanity's strategic position. An alliance with the Drakmori would provide access to their military technology and intelligence about other species' capabilities. More importantly, it would demonstrate that humanity was willing to work with aliens who treated them as equals rather than subjects. Ambassador Korth Malak: "Humanity appreciates the Drakmori offer of alliance," Torres replied. "We are prepared to discuss military cooperation and technology exchange with species that understand the realities of interstellar conflict." The hegemony delegation arrived at the embassy with a very different proposal. Representative Korth Essen offered formal recognition of human territorial claims in exchange for guarantees that human expansion would not threaten established council worlds. His species had ruled vast regions of space for millennia through technological superiority and diplomatic pressure. Ambassador Torres: "The hegemony acknowledges humanity's right to exist as an independent spacefaring civilization," Korth Essen said carefully. "We propose establishing formal boundaries between human and council territories to prevent future misunderstandings." Torres smiled at the diplomatic language that carefully avoided mentioning the recent military disaster. Representative Korth Essen: "Humanity is willing to discuss territorial agreements with species that recognize our sovereign right to defend our interests. We have no desire for conflict with neighbors who respect our boundaries." Captain Morrison coordinated the establishment of human military bases throughout the region while monitoring alien reactions to humanity's expanding presence. Construction ships arrived daily carrying the equipment needed to build permanent installations on worlds that had been selected for their strategic value rather than their habitability. Engineering Chief Lisa Wong supervised the construction of weapon platforms and defensive installations that would protect human colonies from any future alien attacks. Her teams worked around the clock installing systems that combined human engineering with captured alien technology to create defenses that were more advanced than anything in the galactic databases. "Captain, the new installations are operational and linked to the main defense grid," Wong reported. "Any alien fleet attempting to approach human space will face coordinated fire from multiple systems. We now have the capability to defend our territory against anything the galaxy can send against us. The Altarian Federation sent their most experienced diplomat to negotiate with the humans despite the recent destruction of their fleet." Ambassador Veltaran had handled hundreds of first contact situations, but none involving a species that had killed so many of his people. His mission was to establish peaceful relations while ensuring that humanity would not seek revenge for past conflicts. Ambassador Torres: "The Altarian Federation deeply regrets the misunderstanding that led to recent hostilities," Veltaran said formally. "We offer full diplomatic recognition and trade agreements in the hope of establishing peaceful coexistence between our peoples." Torres looked at the alien diplomat with the same cold expression that Captain Morrison had shown during their first encounter. Ambassador Veltaran: "Humanity remembers the Altarian attempt to force our surrender through military intimidation. We are willing to consider peaceful relations with species that accept human independence and territorial sovereignty. Lieutenant, Commander Ryan Phillips monitored communications between alien governments as news of successful human diplomacy spread throughout Council territories. Species that had spent months debating military action against humanity were now competing to establish favorable relationships with the new galactic power.